Dr. Isiah Robinson here at XFit Lab. I'm going to go over Jake's VO2 max report, and we're going to see why he's such a stud athlete and why his engine is superior. All right.
Not bad for 42 and a new dad.
Not bad at all. Actually, and improving with age, right?
Yes.
You had this test done a couple years ago, and we've seen quite some improvement in your numbers. But let's dive into it. When we do this metabolic assessment, what we're looking at specifically is the breath by breath data, and that gives us insight into Jake's metabolism. By knowing the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide he's utilizing, that allows us to make calculations with my machine and put data to the way his metabolism is running.
Why am I running at 90% fat, which is just crazy because I've seen a couple other people's clients' data come across. I'm very happy with it, but it's crazy.
Right. And it's interesting because you improved that. Your number was 84 2 years ago, and now you're at 90%. So typically when a client comes in and we're looking at their fat efficiency versus carb efficiency, we're looking at a number that we call metabolic flexibility.
Yeah.
And that is how well your body can switch between the fuel systems. When you're above 70% fat efficiency, you're said to be more metabolically flexible, meaning your body knows when to use the excess carbohydrates and when to use the fats that we have plentiful of. So Jake being 20% above normal means a lot of things. It means that he's doing a lot of base work.
What would you say base work? Would you define that? Because I want to know why I did so good at this too. So what is the base work? Weight training or zone 2 or what is it?
So it's a combination. It is strength training as well as zone 2 training. Increasing that zone 2 will help increase that fat efficiency by increasing the mitochondria at the muscle level. So by increasing those two aspects year after year, you're able to then manipulate your metabolism, and his body knows when to burn fat and also then can switch easily to burning the nitrous fuel, the fast burning fuel, which is carbohydrates. Fantastic numbers.
Resting heart rate 56. I was super happy with that too.
Yes, because last time you came in, it was in the 70s. And, that's a little bit white collar. You come in, you're a little nervous, a little anxious. This time, he knew my face. He knew where the office was. He came in cool as a cucumber. And that number, again, allows us to put you in a demographic of athlete, which is fantastic. Having a low resting heart rate just means that your heart has to do less work during the day to circulate oxygenated blood to all your vital organs and all your muscles.
So all the standard metabolic process, my body's just cool and chill as a cucumber. Having said that, I have really taken on myself over the last 3 years to really go on a journey of increasing my cardio output and doing the additional work. I've always loved weight training. From kind of transitioning from college athlete to like normal person, I kept weight training, but I didn't give cardio the priority. But 3 years ago, I had a score of a 47. I was in my 30s at that time. And I think I was actually in the fair range on it, and I said, fuck this. And I've really put in the legwork over the last 3 years to really ramp that the fuck up.
And the data's there, right? It shows, you really ramped it up, but the without numbers, you don't know where you are. Even though you looked good and you felt good, the information that you can get from a VO2 max test kind of tells you where you are in relation to other men your age. And it allows you to say, all right, I'm leaving something on the table. What is that? And you can make adaptations to that.
So VO2 max 55.6 superior.
55.6. So any male over the age of 40 and under the age of 50, anything above a 48.1 puts you in the superior demographic.
Next year, in February, when I turn 43, my goal is to have a 60.
A lot of people think that once they get a number, that's their fixed number, and you're proof that you can train and you can push these numbers higher if you have the right stimulus.
What is my course to improve this number even further?
For you specifically, when we're looking at pushing your VO2 max, we want to make sure that we keep building up your crossover point and your base, because we know you have such a high output. So moving the base further to the right, or your aerobic rate, where your crossover point is, if we move that closer to your top end, you'll have more energy energy to push out towards the end of that test. To counteract that, you also have to do a lot of high intensity interval style work as well, because you need to be able to test what your top limit is. A lot of people will think that they know how hard to push. If you don't get comfortable pushing your body, you'll never get to that high end.
The biggest difference, at least from my POV while doing the two tests, was I used to, and even if I was okay, I was freaking out in my head when I was hanging out in those 170 beats per minute area.
Right, because as you know, there comes a time during the test where your body's like, oh crap, what are we doing? One of the metrics that I pulled out was where you started to lose efficiency. And if you look back on your old test, it happened at a lot earlier heart rate. By looking at this metric, I would say, all right, Jake, your efficiency from a breathing standpoint and a oxygen standpoint started to decrease at 106 beats per minute. I would give you intervals into that 166 from a heart rate standpoint and get your body to essentially be more efficient at that heart rate so that we can keep pushing that efficiency further and further. And when you get to this higher level, when you're a superior athlete, there's minor tweaks to get you to the next level, right? It's not a major overhaul. It's small. So we have to look at the smaller detail of how to get you to that 60 VO2.
Now, let me ask you this, a couple things. I hit zone 2. For me, it's only 115 beats per minute. And that's why you said, like, bring up my base skills, because that should be a higher number, essentially. It should take more for me to get into zone 2.
Right. So what's cool about that is that, again, all of these zones can change, and usually they'll change with stress. So time under tension, if you're stressing your zone at that in between the floor and the ceiling, your zone 2 is going to go from 115 to about 133. Last time we did this test, it was 105 to 126. So you've already increased that base, but we want to push it a little bit further. The more time we're spending in that zone, your body will start making the adaptations in order to say, all right, well, obviously we're living in this zone, so we now either have to become even more efficient, or we have to start producing more mitochondria in the muscle belly so that we are utilizing less energy and making this easier for our body, because we're spending so much time in the zone. Our goal for you would be to build up that zone 2 a little bit further. And the way we do that is by spending more time in that zone 2.
You recommend steady state zone 2?
Absolutely. In the modality of choice. But if we could do it on the machine that we tested you on, that would start to create the endurance and build up less fatigue in the muscles.
I have a concept bike as well as Airdyne, and I'll probably use the concept. My hands don't get tired. Like, this upper body's used to,
It's a machine. It's used to going.
Yes, it's used to going. My legs are used to max output. So I think doing the concept bike for my zone 2 would be the smart protocol going forward. For the HIIT, the 1-to-1 ratio, where we're pushing from the other side of it, we're trying to get that heart rate to around 166 would be the goal, you're saying.
Absolutely. And again, the more times we can hit that 166 and get you comfortable and then come back down, right? So again, if we want to change anything from a metabolic standpoint, we have to stress it. If you overshoot it, you're missing it. If you undershoot it, you're not stressing it. So at minimum, I want you to have that 161. And again, we have a ceiling, that 172. So that gives you, because when you're going that hard, it actually is hard to pinpoint that 166. So having some sort of upper and lower limit.
Rather than one.
Right. Right.
What's the right way to get to that zone? And then what's the time frame? How would you go about that?
I would have it set at a 1-to-1 based off of your heart rate. So I would have the work part start when we get to that zone. So if it was zone 4, we'd start as soon as your heart rate gets to 161. And that could be 30 seconds at that heart rate of 161, not exceeding 172. And then I would have you come back down all the way below the floor of your zone 2. I want you to recover back down into zone 1 and then repeat. For me, it's going to be about time in that zone. So that 1-to-1 is going to be zone 4, 30 seconds, zone 1, 30 seconds, and everything in between. And what that helps us do is it helps us increase your ability to recover. If we keep your heart rate up so high and not giving you enough recovery, it's just going to start bleeding into zone 5.
Let's say it takes me a minute to get to 166.
Then you're going to hold that for 30 seconds.
30 and trying to stay there. Don't push past.
Correct.
Come down. What if it takes, now it won't for me, I know that because I dropped 30 points last time, but it took a minute for me to drop about, I don't remember what it was, 40 or something like that. So let's say it takes a minute for me to get to 120 then.
So that's why I'm not basing it off of time. I'm basing
Yes.
it off heart rate. And in that minute after we stop or slow down, I want you to work on your breathing. I want you to work on it. And that's, again, how we fine tune. If you go in and look at these race cars, right? A fraction of the PSI is what makes the difference between the winners and the losers. So just looking at tire pressure in each individual tire is important, just like we look at making sure you have enough recovery. It's another thing that we can pay attention to. Yes, we can do the time blocks. Absolutely. Is it effective? Yes. But we did this test. We got really specific. Let's utilize those numbers and start uncovering our inefficiencies and improving them. Right?
Awesome. Super helpful. Anything else that we should really be looking at on this report?
This was one of the largest things that I've seen in improvements was your fat utilization at the lower intensity rates. This was really good, this test. Last test, it wasn't as pronounced, but your body's ability to utilize fat at lower intensities, which it should, increased a lot on this test. But it's cool to see a snapshot of your breath by breath data. As you're increasing your intensity, your carbohydrate utilization picks up, and then we get to a point where you're maxed out, and then the heart rate starts to drop down. Knowing your data only allows you to train better. And when you choose to utilize it, you can, but having that information is paramount to you becoming the better version of yourself and you being able to push to a VO2 max of 60.
Let me ask you one last question. Is there a school of thought or a resource or someplace I should go to learn the proper way to breathe? Or is there some sort of breath work? Or what are you really referring to when you say focus on my breathing?
Entry level stuff, I always recommend Wim Hof. He's kind of the master. The technique is the same technique that the Navy SEALs use.
Okay.
And then you can get toys, right? So Wim Hof has a free YouTube video. Then you can start using breath trainers and breathing diaphragm trainers and intercostal muscle trainers that you can strengthen the rib cage. You know, it could be simple as understanding if you're in this zone, how many breaths per minute are you utilizing? Is there a way for you to breathe a little bit deeper? Is there a way to utilize your diaphragm since you're very efficient at converting oxygen into energy, right? The more energy you have, the better your body will perform.
That gives me two really big keys to unlock from this conversation today. My actionables now are very clear. Do it based on heart rate, get into those 160s in that zone 4, and 2, Wim Hof. Dr. Robinson, you're the bomb. I really appreciate your insight. Super smart. And again, I did this at XFit Labs. It's in White Plains, New York, right here in Westchester, right outside of the city. Again, you should look at Dr. Isiah Robinson up on Instagram. But if you're in the area, want to get your VO2 max and your RMR done, I can't speak highly enough about him and the facility and the data that you're going to get from it.
Thanks so much, Jake.
Thanks,
Appreciate
you.
you.
Really good to see you.
Good to see you too.